Come, quiet listener, to a gentle journey back in time to an era of gaslight and grand ambition, an age of profound social contrasts. The Victorian period. As the world outside your window grows still, we invite you to settle in and allow the distant echoes of London's bustling streets and hidden alleyways to lull you into a state of calm. We will not be exploring triumphant empires or famous inventors, but rather the often overlooked realities of everyday life, particularly for those on the fringes of its glittering society. Tonight, we will quietly step into the grim heart of a Victorian slum, understanding the challenges faced by its inhabitants. We will then turn our attention to the inspiring efforts of a pioneering reformer who sought to alleviate this suffering. Arger will lead us to uncover the curious secrets of Victorian spiritualism, a phenomenon that captivated many. Finally, we will drift into the opulent, yet often constrained, world of the Victorian elite, offering a gentle contrast to the lives we have previously observed. Good. So, breathe deeply, relax your mind, and prepare to drift into the quiet, detailed depths of Victorian history. Good. Imagine, if you will, a world shrouded in a perpetual haze of coal smoke, where the air itself felt heavy and uninviting. We are stepping back into the teeming heart of a Victorian slum, a place of stark realities that existed in the very shadow of a global empire. Turek, to truly understand the Victorian age, one must look beyond the grand facades and polite society to the lives endured by millions. Your environment, were you to reside in such a place, would be the urban labyrinth of overcrowded tenements. Picture narrow, winding alleyways, perpetually damp and dimly lit. Even at midday, the buildings would be tall, tightly packed, and often dilapidated, with crumbling brickwork and broken windows. Imagine multiple families, sometimes 10 or more people, sharing a single cramped room. Their lives lived in immediate, inescapable proximity. The sounds would be a constant murmur of voices, coughs, distant street cries, and the creak of old floorboards. The smells would be pervasive. The acrid tang of human waste from overflowing privies. Boo! The sickly sweet odor of decay and the ever-present dampness that clung to everything. Sanitation systems were rudimentary or non-existent, meaning refuse often piled in the streets, further contributing to the oppressive atmosphere. Within this dense environment, disease and death were not distant threats, but constant, intimate companions. Imagine the chilling fear of a cholera epidemic sweeping through your street, claiming lives with terrifying speed, caused by contaminated water from shared pumps. Tuberculosis, often called consumption, would silently waste away families, its cough a familiar, dreaded sound. Other illnesses, like typhus, smallpox, and dysentery, were endemic, particularly among children. Whose fragile lives were often brutally cut short. The lack of clean water, proper sewage systems, and basic hygiene meant that disease was an inescapable part of daily life, transforming even a simple cold into a potentially fatal affliction. The constant presence of illness created an atmosphere of profound vulnerability and quiet despair. Boo! For most who lived in these slums, life was an unrelenting grind of labor, a constant struggle against destitution. Imagine the bone-aching hours spent in factories, their air thick with lint and noise, operating dangerous machinery for meager wages. Children, some as young as 5 or 6, would work alongside adults, their small hands deemed suitable for intricate tasks in textile mills or coal mines. Hear the rhythmic clang of the looms, the dull thud of mining picks, the incessant hum of industrial production. Others toiled in dimly lit sweatshops, producing garments for pennies a day, or endured the backbreaking work of domestic service, often for ungrateful employers. The wages were barely enough to survive, and the threat of unemployment, even for a single day, meant the immediate prospect of hunger for your entire family. Being in this constant struggle for survival, every penny, every scrap of food was precious. Imagine the pawnbrokers' shops, their 3 golden balls, a familiar sight, where meager possessions were exchanged for a pittance to buy bread or fuel. Those who reached the absolute bottom. The workhouses stood as a last, dreaded resort. Imagine the stark, unforgiving walls of the workhouse. A place designed to be punitive, where families were separated, identities stripped, and every aspect of life was rigidly controlled in exchange for a bare existence. It was a place of last resort, entered only when all other hope had vanished. Life in a Victorian slum was a daily negotiation with profound hardship. A constant fight for dignity and survival amidst an overwhelming tide of poverty and neglect. Print from the stark and often overwhelming realities of the Victorian slum. We now gently lift our gaze to an individual who chose not merely to observe this suffering, but to actively confront it. This is the story of Mary Carpenter, a pioneering social reformer whose tireless efforts illuminated the plight of impoverished children and laid foundational stones for modern social welfare. Life is a quiet testament to the power of compassion and persistent advocacy in the face of profound injustice. Mary Carpenter was born in 1807 into a privileged and intellectually vibrant Unitarian family in Bristol, England. Imagine a childhood filled with books, lively discussions on social issues, and an upbringing steeped in principles of social justice and philanthropy. Unlike many women of her social standing, Mary was encouraged to pursue intellectual interests and develop a keen awareness of the world around her. It was this background, combined with her innate empathy, that led to a growing awakening regarding the immense disparities she observed in Victorian society. Imagine the quiet but firm resolve building within her as she witnessed the stark contrast between her comfortable life and the grinding poverty that existed just beyond her doorstep. This early exposure to social inequality ignited a lifelong commitment to reform. Her reformative work began in earnest with the establishment of ragged schools. Imagine these humble, often makeshift, educational institutions set up in the poorest districts, offering free schooling, food, and basic hygiene to children who were too poor, too ragged, or too neglected to attend regular schools. Mary Carpenter understood that education was a key to breaking the cycle of poverty and crime. Her dedication went beyond simply teaching. She sought to provide holistic care, recognizing the interconnectedness of poverty, lack of education, and juvenile delinquency. This led her to champion the cause of reformatories. Imagine her advocating passionately for separate institutions for young offenders, believing that punishment alone was insufficient, and that rehabilitation through education and vocational training offered a better path than harsh prisons. She founded her own reformatories, such as the Red Lodge Girls Reformatory, where she implemented progressive methods, focusing on moral guidance and practical skills rather than brutal discipline. Mary Carpenter's work was not without its challenges and opposition. Imagine the societal resistance she faced, particularly as a woman. In an era when female involvement in public life was often met with skepticism and scorn, she contended with bureaucratic inertia, public apathy, and the prevailing punitive attitudes towards the poor and criminal. Funding her schools and reformatories was a constant struggle, requiring tireless fundraising efforts, eloquent appeals, and a willingness to knock on countless doors. She endured criticism and misunderstanding, often working against the tide of conventional wisdom. Her work was often thankless, yet she persisted with remarkable fortitude, driven by her unwavering conviction in the inherent dignity and potential of every child, regardless of their circumstances. Despite these formidable obstacles, Mary Carpenter's lasting legacy is profound and imagine the quiet revolution she helped to ignite, shaping public attitudes towards child poverty and juvenile justice. Her tireless advocacy led to significant legislative changes, including the passing of the Reformatory Schools Act in 1850, which provided government funding for such institutions. She became an internationally recognized expert on penal reform and education, corresponding with figures across Europe and America. Her writings, meticulously detailing the conditions of the poor and arguing for compassionate reform, influenced generations of social workers and policy. Mary Carpenter's quiet determination laid the groundwork for modern concepts of child welfare and rehabilitative justice, demonstrating that even a single, dedicated individual can, with unwavering resolve, bring about profound and enduring positive change in the world. Her gentle, yet powerful, impact continues to resonate through the quieter currents of social history. Before we begin, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. From the tangible efforts to alleviate earthly suffering championed by Mary Carpenter, we now turn our attention to a more ethereal realm, one that captivated the Victorian imagination and offered solace, curiosity, and sometimes outright deception. This is the world of Victorian spiritualism, a social and religious movement centered on the belief that the spirits of the deceased could communicate with the living. Imagine a society grappling with rapid industrialization, scientific advancements, and high mortality rates, finding both comfort and intrigue in the possibility of bridging the gap between the living and the departed. The origins of spiritualism in the Victorian era can be traced back to a seemingly innocuous event in New York, though its influence quickly spread across the Atlantic to Britain. Picture a modest farmhouse in Hydesville where the Fox sisters, Margaret, Kate, and Leah, are gathered one night when they hear mysterious rappings and knockings. At first, they dismiss these sounds as the work of mice or settling pipes. Yet as the noises continue, they become convinced that they are communicating with the spirit of a peddler who had met an untimely demise near their home. As the Fox sisters attempt to respond to these ghostly taps, a full-blown unfolds, marking the birth of modern spiritualism. News of their extraordinary experiences spreads, attracting the attention of researchers. Soon, similar reports of spirit communication emerge from other families. Each adding to the growing tapestry of spiritualist lore. The Victorian era in Britain and America was a period of profound social and technological change. Imagine a society in transition, moving away from agrarian roots towards industrial centers, grappling with the consequences of rapid urbanization and the widening gap between the rich and the poor. Amidst this upheaval, spiritualism offered a comforting constant, a way to connect with loved ones lost to the harsh realities of the time. Whether they died in childbirth from industrial accidents or due to the inadequate living conditions in rapidly growing cities, it provided a framework for understanding their passing and a means to communicate with them, alleviating some of the grief and uncertainty that accompanied such untimely deaths. Core of spiritualism lay in its claim that the departed could communicate with the living through mediums, individuals who possessed special abilities to facilitate these connections. These mediums could be male or female, but spiritualism inadvertently opened up new possibilities for women. In a time when societal expectations often confined women to domestic roles, spiritualism allowed women to step into positions of authority and leadership as mediums, often earning income and recognition for their supposed gifts. As spiritualism gained traction, mediums developed various techniques to showcase their abilities. One common method was table turning, where they would supposedly cause tables or chairs to rotate or levitate, guided by the spirits. Another was automatic writing, where they would enter a trance-like state and produce written messages, which were believed to be dictated by spirits. Imagine a group of believers gathered in a dimly lit room, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of a candle as they place their hands on a table. Suddenly, the table begins to move, rotating slowly at first, and then with increasing speed until it is spinning rapidly, all the while remaining perfectly still. Despite the efforts of those trying to stop it, this display of supernatural power captivates the audience, leaving them in awe and wonder. However, not everyone was convinced. Scientists and rational thinkers began to investigate these phenomena, employing the tools of observation and logic to try and explain what was happening. Some argued that mediums were using hidden mechanical devices to create their effects, while others suggested that it was all a grand illusion. Despite these doubts, spiritualism continued to flourish, fueled by the unwavering belief of its followers and the enduring human fascination with the unknown. The most dramatic form of spirit manifestation was the materialization, in which mediums claimed to bring forth full-bodied apparitions of spirits. These events were typically more theatrical in nature, often taking place on stage in front of large audiences. Imagine a medium stepping into a pool of darkness on a stage. As the spotlight hits them, a spectral figure emerges, interacting with the medium and sometimes with members of the audience. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd as they witnessed this extraordinary spectacle, questioning whether they are seeing a ghost or a cleverly orchestrated hoax. As spiritualism grew in popularity, so did the number of skeptics and mediums who were exposed as frauds faced public ridicule, tarnishing the reputation of the movement as a whole. Yet, despite these setbacks, spiritualism left an indelible mark on Victorian culture, reflecting a time when science and spirituality were in a delicate dance, and the boundaries between the natural and the supernatural were far from clear. Thank you for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, please like it and subscribe to my channel. Also, let me know in the comments what you thought about this episode and what other topics you would like me to discuss. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Now, if you are enjoying these stories and would like to help us reach more history lovers like you, please hit that thumbs up button and share this episode with your friends and family. Kaya support means the world to us and helps keep our production thriving. So thank you for being a part of the time travel family. From the haunting melodies of spiritualism, we now make a final, significant shift, ascending to the very zenith of Victorian society. Imagine a world of glittering ballrooms, meticulously manicured gardens, and vast townhouses filled with exquisite treasures. This is the domain of the Victorian elite, a world of immense wealth, rigid etiquette, and often, a surprising underlying hypocrisy. Exploring their daily lives reveals a different kind of sufferance. The pressures of maintaining appearances within a tightly controlled social structure. Let us step into the grand townhouse of a Victorian aristocrat or wealthy industrialist. Imagine its imposing facade, the polished brass of its door, and the intricate ironwork of its railings. Inside, the interiors would be sumptuously decorated. Heavy velvet curtains, ornate wallpaper, richly carved furniture, and a profusion of obèche d'art collected from around the world. The sounds would be muted, hushed by thick carpets and the quiet efficiency of a large domestic staff. An army of servants, from the lowest scullery made to the formidable butler, moved through the house with military precision. ensuring every comfort and anticipating every need. Life was lived according to a strict adherence to social conventions. Good. A delicate ballet of protocols and expectations that governed every interaction, from pouring tea to accepting an invitation. The social calendar of the elite was dominated by the social season, a relentless round of events from late spring through summer. Imagine the ceaseless procession of balls, where debutantes hoped to secure advantageous marriages, their gowns rustling with every turn. Here, the elegant strains of waltzes and quadrilles filling grand ballrooms offered more intimate, yet equally calculated opportunities for networking and display. Dinner parties were elaborate affairs with multiple courses, fine wines, and carefully curated guest lists. Beyond London, imagine the country house visits, weekend gatherings in vast estates, golfing, opportunities for hunting, riding, and further social maneuvering. Every engagement, every invitation was a step in a carefully choreographed dance designed for display. For solidifying status, and, crucially, for brokering marriages that would secure family fortunes and lineages. Within this gilded world, etiquette and appearances were paramount. Imagine the immense pressure to conform to unyielding rules of decorum, governing everything from the proper way to hold a teacup to the correct length of a calling card visit. Reputation was everything. A single scandal could ruin a family's standing. The unspoken codes of class distinction were subtle yet absolute, dictating who you could associate with, where you could be seen, and how you presented yourself to the world. A slight deviation from these norms could lead to social ostracization. The public persona was meticulously crafted, projecting an image of moral rectitude, financial success, and unimpeachable social standing. Beneath this polished surface lay hidden realities and a significant degree of hypocrisy. Imagine the underlying pressures of maintaining this elaborate facade. The constant need for vast sums of money to support the lifestyle, the often heavy gambling debts incurred by gentlemen, and the sometimes fragile foundations of their inherited wealth. Despite the emphasis on strict morality, secret affairs were not uncommon, conducted discreetly to avoid public ruin. The limited roles for women, particularly those of the upper classes, within this seemingly perfect world were also a quiet burden, confined largely to the domestic sphere and the pursuit of a suitable marriage. Many highly intelligent and capable women found their talents stifled by societal expectations. Often feeling trapped within a gilded cage of luxury and constraint. The Victorian high society, for all its dazzling was a world of rigid expectations, suppressed desires, and a constant, silent tension between public presentation and private truth. As the opulent yet sometimes strained echoes of Victorian high society begin to soften and the distant sounds of bustling slums and grand ballrooms gently recede. We hope this journey has offered you a calming glimpse into a fascinating and complex era. We have plunged into the grim realities of urban poverty, acknowledging the resilience required for daily survival in the shadows of empire. We then turn to the inspiring efforts of Mary Carpenter, force for change who fought for the forgotten children of the slums. We explored the curious, sometimes deceptive, world of Victorian spiritualism, a reflection of a society grappling with loss and the unknown. And finally, we settled into the elegant, yet often restrictive lives of the Victorian elite, observing the pressures beneath their polished exteriors. Each facet of this intricate period, from its deepest hardships to its highest indulgences, weaves a richer tapestry of the Victorian age, revealing a time of profound contrasts and enduring human experiences. As these historical details gently recede, allow the steady cadence of the past to lull you further into tranquility. May the distant murmurs of a Victorian street The quiet rustle of silk, cud, and the lingering scent of coal smoke now blend into a soothing melody, guiding you peacefully toward the embrace of deep and restful sleep.